10 million years ago, on a forest floor in Africa, a primate picked up overripe fruit and discovered one of the oldest experiences in nature. Biologist Robert Dudley calls this the drunken monkey hypothesis. When fruit sits on the ground, natural yeast breaks down the sugars, turning it into a source of ethanol. For our ancestors, that small chemical reward was a survival advantage. It provided extra calories and a mild buzz that kept them coming back to these trees. Over millions of years, they evolved to seek it out. Long before the first humans figured out how to make a drink on purpose, the taste for it was already hardwired into our biology. The question is when that instinct turned into an industry. We usually imagine human progress as a straight line. First nomads, then we farmed, then we built cities, and eventually discovered how to ferment drinks. This sequence is wrong. Evidence suggests fermentation wasn't a luxury found after settling down. It was the primary incentive to settle down. In 2018, archaeologists began excavating Raqefet cave in modern-day Israel. 13,000 years ago, it was inhabited by a nomadic group called the Natufians. Inside, researchers found stone mortars carved directly into the cave floor. When they analyzed the residue, they found traces of wild wheat and barley that had been soaked, germinated, and fermented. These people were not farmers. They were still hunting and gathering wild plants, yet they committed the time and labor needed to brew beer in these bedrock mortars. 1,000 years later, at Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, another group of nomads built something even more complex. You are looking at 10-ton stone pillars, carved with precision and arranged in massive circles. There are no signs of permanent homes here, meaning this was likely a gathering place for tribes who traveled across the region. For years, archaeologists couldn't explain why nomads would organize the massive labor needed to build it. The discovery of large stone vats containing chemical traces of fermented grain suggests a motivation. This was a site for ritualized drinking on a massive scale. Long before they had a reason to build a village, these hunter-gatherers were already organizing complex labor and traveling across the landscape to drink together. Archaeobotanist Patrick McGovern argues that this desire for drink changed the course of our species. He believes humans didn't start farming to make bread, they started farming to make beer. Making bread is a multi-step process involving grinding, kneading, and baking. Making beer is simpler. If you soak grain in water and wait, fermentation happens naturally. To a nomad, the psychological reward of fermentation would have been a much stronger motivator to stay in one place and tend to a field than the labor-intensive production of bread. Once humans committed to the land, brewing became a precise science. In a Neolithic village in China called Jiahu, the evidence gets much more specific. Pottery jars dating back to 7000 BCE contain traces of a sophisticated blend: rice, honey, grapes, and hawthorn berries. This is the oldest confirmed recipe in the world. Settling down allowed humans to perfect these recipes, turning an accidental chemical reaction into a reliable tool for social cohesion. In ancient Egypt, we see the logical conclusion of this agricultural shift. At a scale as massive as the Great Pyramid of Giza, beer was integrated into the daily function of the state. The laborers who built these structures weren't paid in currency. They received 4 to 5 liters of beer a day as their primary salary. This wasn't just a perk, it was a health requirement. The Nile was often contaminated, but the boiling and fermentation used in brewing provided a source of clean liquid that kept the workforce alive. It also provided the essential calories and nutrients needed for heavy labor in the desert heat. Beer was effectively lunch. The Egyptians even viewed it as a gift from the god Osiris, using it for everything from temple offerings to a base for medical prescriptions. In Egypt, a single cup provided the clean water, calories, and medicine that allowed a massive, centralized labor force to function. From the primates seeking out fruit 10 million years ago to the Natufians brewing in caves before they learned to farm, the drive for alcohol has been a constant in the human story. These archaeological sites suggest that our desire for fermentation was a primary motivator for humans to build permanent monuments and cultivate the earth. Every time you have a drink today, you are answering the same biological impulse that made a small primate reach for a piece of overripe fruit millions of years ago.